This is Guru Focus First Look, your morning market brief for Monday, July 6. Here are the stories driving markets today. OPEC Plus announced a collective output increase of 188,000 barrels per day beginning in August, as oil prices approach pre-conflict levels and shipping through the Strait of Hormuz is partially restored. The decision comes as global oil benchmarks have retreated in recent weeks, reflecting easing supply concerns. The move is expected to gradually add supply to the market, following months of voluntary production cuts by key members.
Turning now to deal news. Sky, owned by Comcast, will acquire ITV's networks and streaming businesses for £1.6 billion, or approximately $2.1 billion. The agreement consolidates major UK broadcasting assets under U.S.
ownership, while ITV Studios will be spun off as a standalone company. The transaction marks a significant shift in the British media landscape and is expected to close pending regulatory approval.
Another story we're watching is the upcoming initial public offering of SK Hynix on the Nasdaq. The world's second-largest memory chip producer is set for a $29 billion listing following a 770% rally in Korea. The U.S.
Debut is being closely tracked as a gauge of investor appetite for artificial intelligence-related technology stocks.
Also making news today, EasyJet shares jumped 10% after the UK budget airline agreed in principle to a £5.5 billion or $7.3 billion takeover by US private equity firm Castlelake. The deal comes as EasyJet faces continued pressure from rising fuel costs and ongoing consolidation in the airline sector.
Staying with the markets, S&P 500 and Nasdaq futures rose in pre-market trading after last week's rally, led by technology and semiconductor stocks. Sector rotation has also lifted financials and healthcare as investors await the release of Federal Reserve meeting minutes. Optimism is building ahead of the second quarter earnings season, with strong economic data supporting sentiment. On the economy, major U.S. indices advanced overnight as resilient labor market and home price data fueled optimism. Gains were led by artificial intelligence and semiconductor stocks, with investors anticipating quarterly results from leading firms in the coming weeks.
Meanwhile, in corporate news, Samsung Electronics is projected to report an 18-fold increase in profit for the second quarter of 2026. The surge is driven by robust global demand for AI memory chips, even as the company faces rising employee compensation costs.
Turning to the chip sector, Micron Technology has received earnings estimate upgrades from Wall Street after NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang stated that memory chip shortages are expected to persist for years.
The company's outlook remains strong amid heightened demand for advanced semiconductors. Now let's turn to travel, where airlines including Delta, United, and American are expanding flights and capacity into off-peak months.
This move is driven by robust international travel demand, record heat, and crowding, helping carriers offset higher fuel costs and extend the traditional travel season.
Elsewhere, Meta Platforms has been ordered by the Indian government to remove child sexual abuse material advertised on Instagram. The company faces increased regulatory scrutiny and demands for compliance and user safety in its largest market, as authorities intensify enforcement efforts. On the currency front, the Japanese yen remains near 40-year lows against the US dollar. Market participants are closely watching for potential government intervention as rate differentials between Japan and the United States persist. In regulatory news, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has granted Philip Morris permission to market 20 variants of its Zyn nicotine pouch as less harmful than cigarettes. The decision is expected to boost growth in the nicotine pouch category. And finally, severe weather during Independence Day celebrations brought deadly storms and record-setting heat, leaving millions at risk of flooding. Significant power outages were reported from Michigan to New York and Pennsylvania as authorities responded to widespread disruptions. That wraps up today's market update. We'll be back soon with the latest market news. Thanks for listening to the Guru Focus Brief.